So here's the big question. Do you fear change or do you embrace it? When you have contrast that comes up in your life, do you look at it as a gift? You know, sort of there's a quote, right? Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. Is that an attitude that you can take on? Well, today we're going to dig into that, and we're going to be talking with Pastor Jim about what that can look like when you can shift all that. My name is Cheryl Bassett. I'm founder of Unstoppable Connections, international bestseller, and creator of the award-winning Unstoppable Family Meeting Toolkit. I am also the host of this show, Kitchen Table Conversations, as part of the Edge Network and the Global One Network. So I've had the honor of sharing out over the last several years 4 gifts that really created an unshakable, unbreakable foundation for families. In that process, it's about how everybody comes to the table and feels heard and respected, supported, and celebrated in that process. If you'd like to learn more about the 4 gifts and how it can impact your family, you can reach out to me at unstoppableconnections.com. If you have an idea for this show or you'd like to be on the show, you can also connect with me at kitchentableconversations.com. Now, I really love to sort of set an intention for every show. I think it's just a way to kind of like sort of stand in the moment and celebrate the person who came here with us today to share their heart and their expertise. And this show really does cover the fun stuff to the tough stuff and everything in between. It's all designed to ignite a conversation, to strengthen your family, and to create a positive ripple out into the world. So what we do is we tap into one of the gifts, which is the 4th gift, the gift of love. And we unwrap that gift by choosing to celebrate, as I mentioned, the person who came here today to share. So with that, what I want to do is kind of read a little bit of background about Pastor Jim, who we may end up calling PJ. Just letting you know, because he said people call him PJ, and I love that. But he was born in Coshocton, Ohio. He attended Morehead State University and earned a bachelor's degree in music education. He's drawn by the call of God. He entered the Methodist Theological School in 1987. He was ordained an elder and is now in his 40th year of ministry. Ironically, he's also in his 40th wedding anniversary with his wife, Tammy. They do have 2 children. They have 2 grandchildren who he just spent some time with. He loves music, sports, and he works really hard to improve his golf game, which is very, distance friendly right now, socially distancing wise. It's a great game to play. He also desires to have a Harley Davidson Heritage Softail Classic. I don't know exactly what that is, but my husband would. So clearly he's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a great conversation today as we kind of shift our attitudes. So with that, let me bring him on and add him. Welcome.
Hey, welcome. Good to see you.
You too. It's great to have you here. You and I it's funny how you and I, we connected years ago, and here we are back again, kind of connecting again, and I love it. Yes. So anyway, to start off, because I just really like to start each show by kind of talking about, like, why do you do what you do? Why are you so passionate about it? What's the what wraps around that message that you're going to get to share with us today?
Well, I love the message about change, so as a pastor in a church, especially during a pandemic, we hear things like find the new normal. Well, there is not going to be a new normal. Who knows what normal is going to be, but we do know that the old normal is gone. And so there's change. I mean, in the church, we deal with change all the time, but that's more reflective of what we encounter in our daily lives. We're always changing. I mean, I think of me personally as somebody, my dad was a corporate banker, and we moved about every 5 years. Change. I think about, starting my going to Morehead State to major in music performance. I was a trumpet player, and then got my lip blown up playing Greek flag football, which was always tackle football, and got an elbow in the mouth, so change, couldn't play the trumpet anymore. Went to low brass, started playing that. Well, now I'm going to be a teacher, change, so my life has changed. Then feel the call of God, change. And it was very strange. People that know me well still can't believe that God called me into the ministry. And that's how I prove that God has a sense of humor, okay? Because God certainly changed my life, but the point is that there's just change. My life was always, change. And in our United Methodist Church, we're an itinerant polity, which means the bishop tells you where to go and when. So, we start, so maybe 5 or 6 years in this situation, and 8 years in that one, 10 there, 14 here, it just, so we're always dealing with change. So that was one of the things that I became accustomed to. It was like I've been wired to talk about change, because my life is just one big change up, and so that's, so my passion around that is because I see so many people struggle with change, struggle because they don't like it. And I didn't like it either, as a kid growing up, when you had all your friends and now you're moving from Coshocton to Lancaster, from Lancaster to Milford, from Milford to Perrysburg, and you're going all over the place and you're giving up all these friends. I hated it. And then I realized, well, it's what I make of it, so I can make it something positive, or I can whine and cry about it. So my dad, it really encouraged me not to whine and cry about it. So, but anyway, that's how I got to this fascination with change, because if you think about it, change is everywhere. So.
Yeah, there's a something I read recently. It says that it's rare when the unexpected can happen to anyone at any time, but it's rare when the unexpected happens to everyone at the same time. and that's a change that I don't think any of us had experienced before. We're literally we're in this moment in time about you can accept things or reject them, but you're not going to ignore them, right? Because they're there to be. Looked at. And so I feel like right now people who probably do a lot of work to try to avoid change didn't have a choice in the scenario we're in, right? So it's a growing experience. I'm kind of the other way around, and maybe it's because I had a lot of change growing up too, but I actually like it. It's I kind of embrace it. I think it's exciting, and but we all, but I think, and it sounds like that's kind of where you are now. You got to go, okay, what's the next adventure?
Right. Well, and Cheryl, I love your choice of words there. Adventure. We can look at it as, it's an adventure. Wow, that sounds cool to me. An adventure, or is it a drudgery? It's a dirge. I'm going to go down this road. It's going to be horrible. Or you can look at it as an adventure. What new things will I discover? What can I learn from this? How can I grow and be different in the midst of this? What can I embrace differently? So it is an adventure. So I love that term. And I think that's, that's a good table question. How can we make change an adventure in our life?
An adventure. Oh yeah, that is good. Yeah. It also, I think I might've shared this story with you when we originally connected. But I had two moms, and I know both of them really well, and I know their kids really well. But they were both having to shift from one middle school to the other middle school. And so I always thought this was such a powerful thing for parents to think about, because I knew the one mom, I already knew she wasn't going to like it. Right. And the other mom, I knew she was going to look at it as more of okay, you get to, have this new opportunity, right? An adventure, if you will. And so I talked with both of the kids after this all got announced. And of course, the one said, oh, it's going to be, I don't know who my teacher's going to be. I'm going to have to make all new friends. I don't know if I'm going to like anybody. I don't know. It was like the kid was taking on the emotions of that parent, right?
Right.
The other kid, I said, hey, I hear you have to go to a new school. Oh, I know, and I hear there's some really cool teachers there, and I'm going to get to try some new things, and I'm going to have a whole new group of friends. And it was the exact same experience, but it was how each one, right, was feeding off the parent, by the way, right?
Yes.
They were going to embrace that. So I think as parents, we have to really be aware of that, because our kids do take on, right?
Oh my, children live what they learn. Isn't that right? Yeah. And so much so. You can set the tone. We do as parents, we set the tone, right? It's true in any organization. So we set the tone. like if we're in the church, whatever business, whatever we do, we set the tone around us by how we respond and the choices we make, right? I mean, that's just commonplace. And as parents, we have a great opportunity because change is all the time. We can teach our children how to, and our grandchildren, right? We can teach them how to embrace change in a way that doesn't minimize, that I don't like that. I mean, I that hurts. Or, like a change, it's a change where last year I made the baseball team. This year I didn't, that hurts. So it's still a change, right? But it's, so you have to embrace and acknowledge the frustration or the pain or the hurt or whatever it is, but then say, okay, yes, that's true. Now, let's move on and say, look, now we can do this, or now we can go here. And when the parents set the model, that really just goes right into the children's lives that way, and that's how
they're going
to.
And I think so. I think parents really be in awareness. So I love that question. Right, sit down at the table and say, okay, we've got a change coming. How can we look at this? What's the adventure? Like what do we get to go do together and shift that as much? And you're right. You do have to acknowledge it, though. I mean, I always used to tell my boys, like, you're never wrong for how you feel. It's just how you feel. But it doesn't mean you have to stay there either, because obviously when something doesn't happen the way that you planned, then there's another whole opportunity that's waiting out there if you're willing to allow that in, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. I know one of the things that you had talked about too was an attitude of gratitude. And, I love that expression, obviously. So do you want to maybe elaborate a little bit on that piece?
Well, it's, so I'm going to pull my dad into this again, who I've learned so much from. Mom and dad are 91, and so they're still plugging along. And but my dad is a bank executive. And his job was to go into banks that weren't performing and to help them perform. Okay. And I remember this is one of those life lessons that I remember in one of the first churches. There was an issue, a challenge, an issue of great challenge. And, so I called my dad and said, Dad, I don't know what to do here. And I just wish I wish the bishop would call me and say, Jim, we're going to move you over here so I wouldn't have to deal with it. And, just did this or that. And he goes, good Lord, Jim, good grief. He says, you have to remember, this is merely an opportunity to grow in ways never before imagined. So it's your attitude is everything. So how you look at it, again, goes back to the adventure idea. But man, he told me that, and I got to thinking about that. And so that attitude of gratitude was the idea, life is all about choices, and actually in many ways, life is neutral. Life is neutral. Now things do happen but how we react to it. So basically life is neutral. So we can either go one way and embrace adventure, an attitude of gratitude, or we can go another way where we're just frustrated by the changes, or, like politics today. I don't know if you saw the debate last night. I had to turn it off. I got tired of all the yelling and screaming. I thought, good Lord, I thought we were going to talk about something.
I had flashbacks to my childhood because my parents were not good communicators. Well, they over communicated, if you want to say. And I had this flashback to my childhood. And you're right. I actually had to turn it off. I was like, I'm kind of at that place in my life. And, and I know there were parents out there. I watched some of the responses coming in, right? Even in one of our groups where we have some parents, and some were saying, thank gosh, my kids went to bed. Thank goodness it was at 9 o'clock. We get to see this, right? And yeah, it was really disheartening. But I also am at that point in my life where if something doesn't bring me joy, I stop doing it. So it wasn't bringing me joy. So I think I watched maybe 10 minutes of it. And then I sort of watched some of the comments coming in. But yeah, it was not. Yeah. And it wasn't setting the example that we want, obviously.
No. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
No,
so
absolutely right. I mean, when I went from that to the Big Bang Theory reruns because I just had to laugh. It was
yeah,
sad to me. It was sad. I had to find something to laugh about.
yeah,
So, but
yeah.
anyways, so that was. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Joe.
No,
I was
I
just.
picked it up last week about something about like if you keep thinking something and it makes you feel bad, stop thinking it, and that's sort of where I was last night. So I think the Big Bang Theory, like
Yeah, there you go.
smile and
Yes.
laugh, be happy a little. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Sheldon can always make me laugh. So there you go. But
Yeah.
so that's it's kind of like the attitude of again, life is neutral and it's all about a choice, and we do have the power to make our choices. People don't make us do things. People, somebody could say something and totally blow us up, but they didn't make us respond that way, right? That's a choice we make. The choice is always in our court, and sometimes it's very difficult to make good choices when you're in conversations with people, depending on the attitude of the other or the words being said, but it's still our choice. Nobody said you have to respond this way. And so I've taken that to heart. And, as a person of faith, I believe my faith helps me, empowers me to make these choices. And because it's not easy sometimes to look at a very devastating situation like a pandemic, for example, and then try to help people move from fear to faith, from helplessness to hopefulness, because everything around us, at the beginning stages, what's going to happen, and so we have to make choices to, how we will.
I was talking with someone this morning about the fear, and I know there's a couple. I've heard different acronyms around fear, like false evidence appearing real and that kind of thing. But his was, and I kind of loved it, was face everything and rise.
And
I thought
that's good.
Yeah, I thought that one was nice.
As we say in my world, that'll preach all day long. So I like it. That is really good.
Yeah, yes. Face everything and rise. And it's like, when this whole thing started, everybody kept saying, I shouldn't say everybody, but there were a lot of people who were saying it's going to be less about the pandemic, and it's going to be about the pandemic of fear that gets created. And we certainly have seen that play out, and so if we can shift that, right? Because again, we get back to life doesn't, I said this in the very beginning, it's one of my favorite quotes, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, right? And there's so much, there's a lot of bad, absolutely, that's happened during this time, and I'm not going to downplay that at all. And we've had family members that have had, dealt with some of these issues around COVID, but there's also been a lot of beauty that's gotten weaved into this time, a new awareness about what's really important, right? And yes. And even when families have been separated, in some ways they've come closer together, in Absolutely. Terms of understanding that value of family and connection and all those things. So I feel like what I get to share has been heard, and I'm sure you probably feel like this in the church as well. Like, I feel like some of the messages I've shared before were heard, but now I feel like they're heard at a different level. Do you feel like that when you're kind of hearing some of your,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from what you said there, in when this pandemic hit, in terms of new ahas, I had aha moments. Our staff had aha moments all around us about what matters most, and investing ourselves in the right ways, and slowing our own schedules down, so that we put first things first, and all of that, and how we do ministry, how we do church, if you will. So the attitude of gratitude, when it hit, all these small businesses, especially restaurants, they had to close their doors. Well, the community gathers around. Now, I live in Urbana, Ohio. It's a small 12,000 people, county seat town. What I love about it is everybody knows everybody. What I don't like about it is everybody knows everybody, you know.
I get it. The blessing and the curse. Yeah.
That's right. But in that setting, and you saw it, whether you were in larger cities that had their little hubs within that city, people were coming together, you know. People were reaching out to these small business restaurants and doing a carry-out chain thing just to give them business, you know, so just to kind of do whatever they could to keep them afloat, to keep them going. I saw a lot of community things of people reaching out to people, of people going to their elderly neighbors, people, you know, just, are you okay? What's going on? And so in that sense, again, to your point, we realize in something like that what really matters most. You know, and it's not about stuff, right? You can't take it with you. The things that are important in life are not stuff, you know, it's people, and it's relationships. And
and I feel like if a family now were to sit down and kind of and this would be kind of a fun thing to do, but like if a family could say, okay, 6 months ago, or maybe longer than that now, let's just say before the first of the year, like what were the things that we were really focused on, right? Schedules and, you know, the things that we thought were really important that we had to have or whatever. Now, what are those things? I think that they would see this kind of like if they were to make those two lists, that they would see that shift that has happened, right? And I know that families have had to really navigate, you know, and I'm gonna go back to like the same point, like, you know, the good news is families get to spend more time together, and the bad news is families get to spend more time together. Exactly. They really had to navigate, and for some families, that's been like, I've had so many people say, "Oh my gosh, like it's been like this amazing time to spend time with my children, and then it's been this amazing time to like try to figure things out, right?" Because we weren't really communicating and connecting before. So, and you know, I'm sure it's not always positive, but again, it's that contrast, right? And contrast creates opportunities for us to change.
Right. In positive ways. I mean, again, it's taking, you know, making the conscious choice to look at this, not, and I know this pandemic, talking about that specifically again, it's really messed a lot of lives up because of lack of employment or losing a business or people who've lost loved ones due to the COVID-19, you know, and so, I mean, that's tragic. That is tragic, and there's no way you can.
Yeah, you're not going to paint that.
They're not going to paint that positive. You know, the power of positive thinking isn't going to help that, right? So, but that said, it provides so many opportunities when approaching it, I think, in a healthy way is, you know, it's out of my control. There's nothing I can do. I can't change it. I can't fix it. There's nothing. So I just need to embrace it, learn from it, and then move forward. Or as your friend said, the person you mentioned, what was it? And rise up.
Face everything and rise. Yeah.
Face everything and rise. And I mean, that's it. I mean, and then in doing so with an adventurous heart, looking to find ways to move through the challenge. And then knowing that, as we like to say, you know, you know, I am the eternal optimist. There's always the light at the end of the tunnel. And it is not a train coming at you, right? There is you know, and we're always, there's always that possibility. Always, it's there, ready to be made. So.
Yeah, and it's funny because we were also having a conversation the other day about how, as parents, sometimes we're really quick to sort of create the box, right, for our kids to be in, and as we do that, especially when they're young, right, and some of those fears are now, and I think right now we have to be really careful about that, right, because we're in a really strange time where there's a lot of fear out there. So how do we kind of not put that box on our kids and say, okay, this is, because because if you do that, and I was talking with someone about this, between the ages of like 0 and 8, like, or 0 and 7, it's like really critical times that they develop all these sort of like core beliefs around things, right? And then they spend the rest of their life. And if you put all those limitations on them and you put that box on them so early, then they spend the rest of their life sort of fighting for those limitations, right? Because they're kind of ingrained in them. So I think right now, like, you know, just as we're talking about this fear and face everything and rise with an adventurous heart, which I love, you know, how do we like get our kids through this time and space in a way where it's like they, you know, can look at it through the lens of this is a little contrast, but we get to choose still how we respond to it, right?
Right. And I do think that you know, family, parents, you know, guardians, grandparents, whoever, you know, we lead by example, right? And so we really, I mean, I think one of the best gifts we can give to the next generation is to show our vulnerability, to admit, you know, I don't like this. I think this is scary. But even though I do, you know, this is how I'm going to face it and rise, you know, and this is what I'm doing in this situation. So, hey, you know, here's, you know, his kids' situations, which could be, you know, interesting conversation, maybe for older, maybe for teens, is, you know, how our identity can be lost. They call it the change can lead to identity theft, you know. I was a happy, I was a happy parent. My kids, then they left the nest. Now I'm an empty nester. Now I have no clue what my role in life is because my focus was on the kids. Even though I had worked outside the home, I've lost my identity. I don't know what to do. A teen goes from junior high or middle school to high school. Oh, I was a big fish, maybe. Now I'm a small fish, you know. Oh, I don't know where I fit in now. Identity. And to have those conversations around what's that like and where do we put our, you know, our self-esteem isn't based, right? It's not from what anything out here somewhere. And again, as a person of faith, you know, when God looks at us, he likes what he sees. So that's where we must build that esteem and to see our value. But still there are those changes that lead to really, I mean, it could be going into retirement. You know, actually, I'm kind of looking forward to it. So, you know, but you know, what are you going to do when I mean, there's just so many transitions in life. Again, can be a youth who didn't make the team or who didn't get this or wanted this scholarship, didn't get accepted to that college, didn't get this, didn't get that. And then, oh no, you know, that's a change because I can't do what I had hoped to do.
Or played the trumpet, right?
Or played the trumpet, that's right. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think obviously just like today, guys, if you're watching the show, what we've really just been trying to tackle into is that, you know, life is going to have change. It's like the constant, right? It's going to happen. It's what we do with it, how we choose it. That's going to really either push us towards fulfilling and having joy in our lives or push us to having, you know, pain and sorrow in our lives. And we do get to choose that. And I think that's really what the big overarching message is about today, and that attitude of gratitude. So we are kind of like, it's amazing. And I've loved this conversation. And I will tell you, Jim, it's the first time that I've sort of delved into even talking so much about the I mean, it's always kind of there, and we've had like little minimals, but I think today was a beautiful conversation about it. And I love that because obviously it's there. It doesn't appear to be going away anytime soon.
Unfortunately.
And also just the what's going to unfold from it. You know, I think we're going to continue to have aha moments, like abounding. So I love that we kind of hit into this today. I know we didn't plan like our conversation out per se for every single moment of this, but I love that we sort of delved into not only a little bit of the presidential debate without getting political, A little bit of stuff without digging in too deep, but just looking again at everything. There's an opportunity that's weaved into it. So thank you for that conversation. We like to use every show and end it with something called a dot, which is a drop of thought. And I mentioned this to you, but it's sort of like a little pearl of wisdom. So if you were going to leave our audience with your little pearl of wisdom or your dot, your drop of thought, what would that be?
Change happens, but it can be the best thing that happens to us if we keep an attitude of gratitude and look at change as an opportunity for a new adventure, instead of a trial or a hardship. You know what I mean? So that's, attitude, it really is everything. Attitude changes. Since we're talking about changes everything. Maybe that's the attitude changes everything.
Attitude changes everything.
When you ask a pastor or a preacher to give you a little dot, they will give you a run along, paragraph. It's hard for us to be succinct.
No, you're fine. No, I've had some people that really, that was actually beautiful. So I love that. And attitude does change everything. So I love it. And so the other thing that came out of today, I think we had a couple of really cool things come out today. One was that, and also the face everything and rise. I'll have to tell John, who came up with that, how much we appreciated that during the show today. I love it. And, but face everything and rise, which is fear. Right? Fear, face everything and rise with an adventurous heart. So I love that. Beautiful. And I always close out the show with the same sort of drop of thought. It's really my heart, my passion, which is that, ripples don't flow in, they flow out. Nature demands it. So if we really want to see change out in our world, then it starts with us in our own homes, with our own families first. And so go spend time with your family, love on them, share some of this message, and we'll look forward to, being back here again soon with the next show to ignite those conversations with your family. Jim, thank you for being here. And I will, I'd love to have you come back on again. I think you and I, we should just start tackling all the topics of the day. Yeah. That's what I think.
Maybe after the election.
That's a good idea. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Cheryl.
All right. Take care.